Hello viewers, welcome to K Diagnostics Auto Channel. Dio here. Today we have a 2005 Ford Freestyle with a 3.0 liter, and the customer complaint is that the car has been losing coolant, and he noticed that around the air filter housing coolant had been leaking there. Okay, and I already confirmed the customer complaint, but I would like to show it to you on camera so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm gonna get inside the car, start it, show you where the leak is, and we can both figure out what the issue is and fix it together. So I'm gonna start the car and let's see what we're gonna find. Can you guys see coolant leaking over there? Yeah, right there. Just focus around this area. You see coolant leaking over there? Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. So that's coolant leaking, okay? And it's leaking from around here and over there. I hope you guys can see that. So that's coolant leaking, and when we come up here, so this is the water pump, okay? And let me zoom out a little bit. So, and as you guys can see, it's still leaking down there, and it's leaking from the water pump right here. It's leaking from the water pump vent. I mean, I was under the car and I saw it leaking from the water pump vent. So the issue here is this guy, okay? So now let's go inside the car. So you guys were able to see where the leak is, okay? And here is the issue. The water pump is leaking, and here is the water pump on this 2005 Ford Freestyle. So in order to remove the water pump, oh man, can you guys see that? See all that water, that coolant leaking out? I mean, it's actually clear liquid, it's not coolant. The customer actually said he actually added water in the engine because he noticed that it was leaking so much, coolant was coming out. He just didn't want to keep buying coolant because it was just coming out. So he had put water into it. I mean, after replacing the water pump, we're gonna flush the whole cooling system and then fill it up with 50-50 antifreeze. Okay? Can you guys see the leak? Sweet, sweet, that's awesome. So now we're gonna remove the water pump, okay? I already got the replacement part. It's sitting on the bench right now. So in order to remove the water pump, we're gonna have to take this PCV tube out of the way. This tube right here, and then the air filter housing. So to remove the air filter housing, we're gonna have to undo this one bolt, and then there is another huge clamp right here for the air tube. Right here, the inlet dark, and then we're gonna have to remove this one. We just pull this out of the way, and then we have to remove the mass airflow sensor. So there's a little locking tab here. Just pull it up and then push the tab. Okay, just comes out just like that. Okay, let's get that out of the way, and then this one, there's a little locking tab here too. You just push it back and pull up. Okay, same thing here on this one. Just push it and then pull up, and the whole tube just comes out. So let's put it out of the way. Now let's remove the air filter housing and the air inlet dark so we can have enough room to get the water pump out. So I'm gonna sit you guys over here, housing out of the way. here comes the air filter housing, so I'm gonna get it out of the way. Now we have enough room to see our water pump. So hopefully you guys can see what I'm seeing here. Let me put a camera. At this point, I'm going to undo these radiator hoses, the upper radiator hose and the lower radiator hose. Okay, and then once I undo all these hoses, the thermostat housing will come out, and then once we take the thermostat housing out of the way, then we should have access to the water pump itself. But before I do that, I actually looked underneath. This is one of the radiators that does not have a drain plug. Okay, I'm gonna put a drain container under the vehicle, and then I would undo the lower radiator hose first to allow coolant to come out, and then we'll take the rest of them afterwards. So let me put the drain container underneath, and then we'll go from there. And you need to be careful with this thermostat housing, because it's plastic, and I mean, you do not want to break it. So you really want to be gentle with this, because these thermostat housing sometimes break fairly easily. So I got the lower radiator hose out of the way, and all the water from the cooling system is draining right now. So now let's take this upper hose out. So now I got all the hoses out of the way. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. Okay, so now I have these two bolts to remove so that the thermostat housing can come out. So there's one here and then another one on the other side of it. And there are 8mm bolts. little tiny 8mm. So at this point, the thermostat housing should come out. And here is the thermostat housing. I mean, here's a thermostat in there. Okay, this is a complete housing. So let's get this housing out of the way. And this here, guys, is our water pump. Okay. Here is our water pump, and the water pump is actually driven by the camshaft. Okay, the exhaust camshaft on the cylinder, on this cylinder head here, on the bank that's in front of the vehicle. So the water pump is actually held onto the cylinder head by 3 bolts. Okay, there's this one here, and then this one, and then another one down here. I hope you guys can see the bolts that I'm pointing to. There's this one, that one, and then this one over here. Okay, so once we take these 3 bolts, the water pump should be able to come out. So now let me remove one last hose. Okay, this water pump outlet hose, which actually allow the pumped water or coolant by the water pump to enter the engine block. So this big So we got that out of the way. Hopefully you guys could see that. So we got this out of the way. Now we're gonna undo these. They're still 8mm little tiny bolts. Okay. And guys, this water pump is really straightforward to do. It's not very intricate, because there's nothing much to it. I mean, someone who's got some common sense and who knows how to carefully loosen or tighten bolts could do this. I mean, in the meantime, I mean, once I take the water pump off, I'm gonna have to remove this front plate out. But while I have it here on the vehicle, I'm also gonna loosen all these 8mm bolts, so that I can take all of them out. I mean, so that I can loosen all of them. And this way it's going to make it a lot easier for me to remove them once I have the pump here on the bench. Actually, so these 3 bolts hold the water pump on the cylinder head. Okay, so after removing these 3 bolts, the water pump should be able to come out now. There's this center bolt over here. Center bolt. Okay. Better not forget this center bolt, huh? There we go. Now we're talking. Well, we're gonna remove this center bolt, but the new water pump does not have this center bolt. So the new one actually doesn't have this. So here is the old water pump. Hope you guys can see this. And it was leaking from, do you guys see right here? Right here. You see this crusty looking, you know, right here. Look at this area. Look at here. Okay, and look at the difference. It should look kind of nice and shiny like this. You see the difference between this little section or area here, then back here. Okay, this is where it was leaking. Actually, the water pump, the breather should be, what is it at? So it was leaking from, yeah, from this area around here. Okay, so here is the old one, and ta-da, that's the new one right there. Okay, this right here is, this right here is our new water pump. Okay, this right here is our new water pump. But before we put it together, we're actually gonna assemble this. We're gonna assemble it here on this cart. Let me put you guys here, and then so I can show you what I'm gonna do. Okay. So this is our new water pump, and here is our old one. So we're gonna transfer this plate here on, we're gonna mount it on the new water pump, okay? And then there is a gasket here. This new gasket is a gasket that we're gonna put on. So now, and actually, I mean, some of you might be, oh, you know, you might have to mark it, but there's actually no way, I mean, you can't get it twisted or you can't get it wrong, because if you see closely here, there's a little tab. See this tab? And then the new one also has got it. There's this one right here. So you just have to make sure this plate right here is gonna get lined up with this. Okay? So now, let's get this out of the way. The bolts are all, they are all the length, same length. And here comes our front plate. Okay, here it is. And actually, as you guys can tell, see how this one don't know, hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing here. See how it's like wobbling in there? Watch this. See that? See how wobbly that is? And then look at the difference. This is the new one. See? This one is still wobbling, but the play is not excessive. And check out the difference. See how this one is like wobbling pretty bad? Yeah. So the bearing on this water pump is worn out, you know. Maybe that's where that leak was, because I couldn't really tell, although this area here looked like it was leaking. But anyways, so we're gonna remove the gasket. Let's get the gasket out of the way. So let's wipe it down. Okay. Now let's get our new gasket. Here's our new gasket. Okay. It's gonna go in just like that. Now we're gonna put our bolts. I'm gonna put these bolts back in. Okay. Let's put all the bolts back on. I mean, I'm filming by myself here, so I hope everything I'm doing here is actually being filmed by the camera. Okay. So now with all the bolts and everything lined up, and as I told you guys, the new one, actually there's no bolt. You see how this one, the original one, has a bolt, but this one doesn't have it. Okay, so there's no bolt on this new one. Okay. So these ones are actually not torqued at a very high torque. We just kind of want to get them snug in there. Here is our new water pump, and it is ready to be installed. Now back to the car. Okay guys, let's install this new water pump and call it a day. It's getting late here. I want to show you this before I put it on. As you guys can see, these notches here, actually is what actually goes onto the camshaft so that the water pump can be driven. You know, this thing here spins. Let me spin it on the other side. As you guys can see, this spins to spin the impeller in the water pump. Okay, so here is the new water pump. Let's put it on. So remember guys, the water pump is held onto the cylinder head by 3 long bolts. Those 3 long 8mm bolts are removed. So there's one here, another one at the bottom, and another one here on the right. But before we do that, let's make sure. Let me get these, see if I can get these out of the way. So you guys can see, hopefully. Yeah, so one here, one bolt here, another one here, and then another one there. Those 3 bolts are actually what are the bolts that hold the water pump on the cylinder head. Okay, so now let's install.
Hey, do you have any extension cords I can just borrow for like just like a few minutes?
There's another one over there by the
Yellow?
by the bay door. Yeah, you can use that.
Okay, sweet. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'll turn it to you.
Okay. Okay, now the water pump is in place. I can actually feel it. Now, let me put this bolt on. Now let's tighten them. These bolts are actually tightened not at a very high torque. You just kind of want them nice and snug on there. Okay. I believe the torque on this one is like 120 inch-pound. But you know, I'm just going by feeling, you know, by how. I mean, I guess this is just, I'm doing this just by experience, you know, but by feeling them, I can kind of tell if they're tight or not. So if you don't feel comfortable doing this, just find out what the torque spec is, and then torque them down. Okay, those are torqued down. So now let's put this inlet hose back on. Now let's get the thermostat housing back on. Here's the thermostat housing. I'm reusing this O-ring right here, this seal. I'm gonna apply a little bit of silicone on this seal, but we can reuse it. I mean, it's gonna be just fine. Okay, I'm applying actually a little layer, just a thin layer of silicone here. Now let's get our thermostat housing back into place. Now let's tighten. Now I'm going to tighten down the bolts for the thermostat housing. Okay. Now let's put the lower radiator hose back on. Okay, everything is starting to come back together. Okay, the water pump and the thermostat housing is back on. Now let's put the air filter housing back on and connect the mass airflow sensor connector and put coolant in the engine and start it up. Now I'm gonna put the air filter housing back on. Okay, so now the air filter housing, let me zoom out a little bit. The air filter housing is back on. Now I'm gonna put coolant inside the engine and let's start it and see what happens. Okay guys, so now that I got antifreeze in the engine, I'm gonna start it, turn the heat on and let coolant circulate throughout the engine. And you know, throughout the engine it's gonna go through the hero core and come back and purge all the air out, and we should be good to go. So let's start the engine. Okay guys, now let's verify our repair now. We got coolant and the system is purged. Now let's see if there's any leak here. As you guys can see, there are no more leaks. Okay, it's all nice and dry. Here is the new water pump. Okay, so let's turn the car off and wrap up this video. Guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope this video is gonna help someone out there. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, K Diagnostics, for more awesome videos that are coming up, and I hope that everybody is doing well. See you next time.